Clash of the Rams. I'm your host, Alexa Kay. This is Jared Doherty, Casey Hall, and Daveson Perez. For starters, we're going to be talking about the Olympic hockey semifinals, USA and Canada. Unfortunately, the USA lost, but how do you guys feel about that?
Well, yeah, the game just happened, and so we just come right in, getting our initial thoughts. And initially, right away, you have to look at it. Canada wanted it more. Canada had more star power, and USA, they did not have that. They really didn't show that fight that we're used to every single sport with the USA. They always are fighting for it, but they also didn't have that guy offensively to really get a spark going. My biggest issue with this is when they announced the roster, there was a guy named Bobby Ryan who was let off the roster. He wasn't on it, and there was a lot of outrage over that because he's a goal scorer. He's one of the top goal scorers for Ottawa. And so when he wasn't brought on, but a guy like Blake Wheeler, Bruins fans remember Blake Wheeler. When he was brought onto the team, everyone was joking, why? And so it showed you. In the third period, when you really needed somebody to go and score, get some momentum, offensive momentum, they're throwing Blake Wheeler out there, and he can't do anything. So I do think Bobby Ryan could have helped this team, but it comes down to more of Canada is a defensive team. Claude Julien, the Bruins coach, is a defensive guy, and Canada's defense was unbelievable. PK Subban wasn't even good enough to be on the top 6 defensemen. So that's what it came down to, is defense. Canada scored first, and the USA could not break through of Canada's tremendous defense.
Yeah, I think for sure the U.S. was really lacking on that, like you said, the more aggressiveness on the offensive side. I feel like their leaders who have led them this far, like Phil Kessel and like Oshie, they were pretty much non-existent the entire game. And when you have some of your star players not executing the way that they're supposed to, you're not gonna win games. Like overall, the Canadians had way more shots on goal. They were way more aggressive out the gate, and for the entire game, pretty much. So when that happened, I mean, there's nothing that you can do about it.
Definitely. I feel like the United States started off really strong. They did start off pretty good. They had a lot of shots on goal, but once Canada started turning things around and getting a bunch of momentum and started getting some transition shots, that's really what put a dagger in the United States, and it brought their energy levels down. And once their energy came down, Canada just was able to control the game the rest of the way. And like Jared said, they just couldn't get that spark going with that big guy who's going to score the goal. And that's what you really need.
Yep, and also going into the game, the big talk was essentially the Super Bowl all over again. Best offense versus best defense. USA has the most goals in the tournament so far, but I feel like that number's rigged because they went against the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Slovenia, mediocre teams. So we thought that they had this overpowering goal-scoring team. In Canada, they've only allowed 3 goals in the entire tournament so far. And so guys like Patrick Kane cannot dangle around Drew Doughty in this game. He can do it against Slovakia when Zdeno Chara is not on the ice. But guys like Patrick Kane and Phil Kessel, they're not going to be dangling around doing that against these good defensive teams, and that does not work. You have to cycle it. You have to play hard. You have to be creative. And they were not creative at all, and the defense just stepped up, and Canada was the better team.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. All right, so our next topic is going to be about the 2018 Olympics and whether or not we believe that the NHL players should play. What do you guys think?
Well, to start out, I understand from an owner's perspective of why they don't want players going into the Olympics. Because John Tavares of the New York Islanders, he was on Team Canada and he was injured for the rest of the season now. He got injured in an Olympic game, a knee injury, and he's out for the entire season now. Okay, so what? If the owners don't want players going into the Olympics for 2 weeks to delay the season, they have no problem delaying last year's season by 4 months, but God forbid 2 weeks in the season for the best hockey in the world. One of the most entertaining sports events in the world is the Olympic Games, winter hockey. And so they don't want these players going there in case they get injured. But it's at most 6 extra games. It makes no sense. I don't understand why the owners have a big problem with it. Like, their argument is invalid. And for fans, if there are any fans out there that do not want NHL players into the Olympics because they want to recreate 1980, the Miracle on Ice, I have an answer for you. And that is, I guarantee no one here, because we are all about 20 years old, we did not ever watch the 1980 Olympic game. We did not watch it. The only thing that we know about 1980 is based on a Disney movie with Kurt Russell. That's all we know about it. So you did not watch this game. the reasoning is because, you want to throw the amateurs out there, you want to give them their shot and, see what happens. It's like, no. Are you watching these Olympic Games? These games are the most entertaining games. They are better than any other sport. It's equal to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And people I don't understand how you could even say that you want to throw college players out there. It makes no sense because you are not going to replicate 1980, and the only thing that's going to happen is these Olympic Games, it is an all-star game that matters. It is the most talented players in the world in hockey on the same ice, and it creates an incredible game. And today's game was definitely not as entertaining as it could be, but the Russia-USA game that I saw a few days ago was the best hockey game I've ever seen in my life. So.
When you ask me about that, I get where the executives are coming from. It's it's their investment on players. They pay these guys a lot of money, but that does not mean that I agree with it. The Olympics come every 4 years. We know this. So why not send the best of the best to go compete for your country? All of the other countries are going to be sending their very best, and this is exactly how I feel about the NBA and them not wanting to send their all-stars to wherever the Olympics are being held, because you want to represent your country the best. Most people view the United States of America as the greatest country on the face of the earth, right? So when you try to restrict players from the all-star players from going to the Olympics and competing, one, you take away that sense of pride for wherever they're from, because people, for example, in hockey, people are from Russia, people are from Canada, people are from all of these different places. So you want to give them that chance to kind of, rep where they come from. And I think that's a very beautiful thing about sports, is that, it's a melting pot in a way that everybody gets the chance to experience and to show where they come from.
To offset your point, I completely agree. And you said Russia, and this is what I want to lead into. Alexander Ovechkin is one of the top well-known NHL players. If you don't even watch hockey, you know Sidney Crosby and you know Alex Ovechkin. He's from Russia. Mm-hmm. He has already said that if NHL players are not allowed in the Olympics, he's not playing in the NHL. Kovalchuk's already left. Kovalchuk was on Team Russia too, and he was phenomenal in that tournament. And so the NHL owners, you got to look at this. If you're not going to send your players to the Olympics and to South Korea in 2018, you got to now face this value. You're going to lose money because you're going to lose players. You're going to lose Alex Ovechkin, one of your top money makers. You're going to lose him. Players want to play for their team. Zdeno Chara left the Bruins for the last 2 or 3 games, and they were big, important games. They were playing St. Louis. And to go hold the flag, this means a lot to the players. People, like hockey, it's a little different, but like ski jumpers and all those other sports, people train their entire life for that. In hockey, it's almost the same thing too. They want to play for the Olympics. They want to go out and defend and play for their country with the best people they can, with all the people from their country, everyone looking on, and especially for Russians, because that's their thing, the NHL Olympics. That is the Winter Olympics hockey, that is their thing. And especially even with the women. This is even bigger for the women, because the women, USA women in Canada, if you were watching that game, that was phenomenal. I'll be honest, I don't watch women's hockey. I'm not too into it. I couldn't really name anyone on the team other than Phil Kessel's sister. But that game was fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, this is great. Why does anyone ever want to say, no, we can't have that anymore? It's just, I want to see 1980 again. I want Herb Brooks to come out and give a speech. Because based on your Kurt Russell movie Miracle, because you saw that's what happened in a movie. It's just ridiculous. We were not born for this. This is the most talented and just exciting event in sports, and there's no reason that NHL players should not be in there. If they get injured, so what? They fought for their country. They fought. They went to war for their country in a sporting metaphor, if you
First
feel.
of all, I think you're being really, really harsh on Kurt Russell here. Miracle on Ice was a great movie, and I love it. And so I really don't appreciate this.
To be honest, I've seen that movie like 10 times. It's one of my favorite movies.
100%. If we go back to something like that with no star NHL players, I'm not watching Olympic hockey. And if I don't watch Olympic hockey, I'm not watching any Olympics. I hate the Winter Olympics. I'm sorry. None of the events are cool. Hockey's the only thing that I've cared about whatsoever. And even then, I really focus mostly on the gold medal things. And you got to see, it's cool to see how other people go. It's good to see, we saw Tuukka playing for Finland, playing on a different team with a different group of guys. You see Bergeron playing with a different group of guys, Crosby playing with Bergeron, different teams. And that's what's really cool about this. It's kind of like the All-Star game. It's like you said, it's like the best game possible and get a whole new mix of teams. And you're representing your country, and that's what all these guys live to do, is represent their country and win a gold medal.
Absolutely. And if there's any Kurt Russell fans watching, because I know there probably are, I'm sorry, I love Miracle.
All All right, well, now that we decided we all like Kurt Russell and
Good guy.
everything about the NHL and the Olympics, our next topic is going to be preseason baseball. So, what do you guys think about the Red Sox out there right now?
I think, aside from what many critics think, the Red Sox are in very good shape. They brought back a lot of their guys. Of course, Steven Drew is still out there as a free agent, but they still have Gomes, they still have Napoli, they still have Victorino, they still have Nava, they have Mike Carp, they still have their core guys. They still have David Ortiz, Pedroia. We know who they have. Bogarts, Middlebrooks. Do I have to name the whole infield? So we know we know who they have, right? They also have, and this is in contrast from the Yankees and their offseason, the way that they went about things with spending money and getting big contracts and big players. The Red Sox have invested over the years in their farm system. This is what they've invested in. They have Jackie Bradley Jr. coming up. They have Brandon Workman came up. They have all of these young guys. Ruby De La Rosa is in the minors, trying to make his way onto the team. They have all of these guys that are going to contribute, if not this year, in years to come. So they don't have to worry about spending all this money. Yes, Ryan Dempster left, but what does that do? That gives them even more money to spend on somebody, maybe another pitcher, depending on their needs. They need a shortstop to back up Bogarts just in case, because we know Bogarts proved himself in the playoffs as, a potential star. Middlebrooks is going to have a bounce-back season. I just really feel that the Red Sox are in a great place right now. All they have to do is figure out David Ortiz's contract.
I mean, you talk about the Yankees. The Yankees do this every year. Every offseason, they just throw around a bunch of money, just bring in whoever they can, and just because they don't have that farm system like the Red Sox have.
Mm-hmm.
With that opening up, we could even pick up Steven Drew. We just picked up Chris Capuano. We're just making these little moves, which the Red Sox have always done. And with such a great team and having such a great season last year, there's no reason to make any big moves or big plays because we have the core guys that we need.
Yep.
Let me ask you, where do you expect the Red Sox to finish this season?
I honestly I see the Red Sox making the playoffs once again.
Okay, and in the playoffs, what would you call as a disappointment for them?
A disappointment?
If they made the playoffs, was that the success? If they go one and done in the playoffs, is that still a success to you?
That's still a success for any organization because especially for the Red Sox, when you think of it this way, if they go out through this offseason without spending any money at all, they still have the same guys, right? If they make it to the playoffs with that roster, they're business-wise, they're looked at as geniuses because they saved $40 million, didn't use it at all, and they still made the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't think it's...
Because what I'm saying is, I want to know what people expect out of this team, because I don't expect a lot. I do not expect them to make it to the World Series or win it. I didn't expect it last year, but again, I'm going to stay consistent. I don't think they're going to do it again this year. I actually am not that confident in this team. I think last year, all, the fighters, that attitude, the persona around that team of they were all motivated and dedicated and they wanted to win. They were hard players, they fought hard. I think that's all going to go away. I really do, because I don't think Johnny Gomes is going to keep up with his whatever people enjoy about Johnny Gomes. I actually don't like Johnny Gomes. I think he's annoying. I lost all respect for him after he won the World Series and he tried posing questions about himself because that WAR stat, what you wanted to talk about. I lost credibility for him. That annoyed me. But there's nothing about this team that they did in the offseason that makes me think that they're going to improve and they're going to be better. And it's hard to make that case because they won the World Series with exactly the same team. But I think that they got lucky. It was a gift to win the World Series. And I don't think that they have the capabilities of being able to compete with the Yankees this season. I'm talking about this season coming up. I don't know how I feel about the Red Sox's chances against the Yankees, because the Yankees did go out, and they do this every year. They go out and, like you said, they go out and got all these people. They got, Brian McCann, Ellsbury, and I'm blanking out on who, but they just went out and got everyone. And then, Tanaka. Yeah, so they got all these players and all this money like they do every year. And I think it's going to pay off this year. And so I really don't know if the Red Sox can compete against that. And yes, they're going to bring back David Ortiz and the whole David Ortiz contract. I know you have a few thoughts about David Ortiz, so I'll let you go into David Ortiz right now.
Well, before we go into David Ortiz, I just want to talk a little bit, kind of like to address your point about, I'm not sold on the Red Sox making the World Series. That's definitely not. I'm not sold because, it depends on a lot of things like Buchholz's health.
Which has been a concern every season.
And it really depends on if, Jackie Bradley steps up and Grady Sizemore lives up to,
to nothing.
Till $750,000, that base salary that he got paid. So there's a lot of variables that need to go right. but I do see them making the playoffs just because the level of competition in the East is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to Ortiz. I really don't understand where all of this controversy surrounding David Ortiz asking for his contract is coming from. Honestly, I think that this guy brought 3 world championships to this city, Boston, which is where we're doing the show. I think he's proven himself over the years as the mainstay in this organization. He's the role model for all of the young players that are coming up. All the young players look up to him. Even the players that are already established look at him as the guy. So I don't understand why there's such an uproar when he asks for a couple years, because it's not like he's asking for 7-8 year contract, because that'd be ludicrous. He's 38, going on 39. There's no reason for you to demand so much money. And I agree with reporters and people in the media talking about that he's not worth a ludicrous contract. But I think that he does deserve to be paid like a Miguel Cabrera, who's getting paid $22 million, like these premier guys. Because you gotta think of it this way: the guys that are getting paid all of this money, like Jacoby Ellsbury, he has a 7-year contract. Robinson Cano, he has a multi-year deal. Ludicrous, 10 years, however many millions. David Ortiz has never had that. He's never had that in Boston. He's always had 2 to 3 years for some money. And in the process, what has he done for you? He's gotten you 3 championships. He's gotten multiple MVPs. He's coming off a season where he was 38 years old and batted .309 with 30 home runs and 103 RBIs. What more can you ask of the guy who's uplifting your entire team, willing your team to win a World Series to be a contender for the World Series year after year after year, and he's only playing on chips basically, while all of his contemporaries, the people that he's playing with, are making $22 million, ludicrous amounts of money.
To go off what you're saying, I agree. To be honest, this Ortiz dilemma and argument in spring training, 7 minutes into spring training, he's already talking about his contract. It's not even a story. It's not even a news story. He does this every year. Every year, this is the same thing with David Ortiz. He wants more money, and you give it to him. He deserves it. He's a special case. You give it to him. It's David Ortiz. He's a DH. He's not going anywhere. He is here for the Red Sox till he retires, till his numbers start to dwindle. It's a no story. But speaking of another story with the Red Sox camp, so Ryan Dempster, he retires. He will not retire, but he takes a year off to go spend time with his family. Okay? So can somebody explain to me why the only thing that these Red Sox insiders had to say about Ryan Dempster taking a year off is that, Ryan Dempster, 8-9, 4.57 ERA. Ryan Dempster, mediocre Ryan Dempster is the heart and soul of that team. He's a team comedian. He goes on to buses, picks up a mic, starts cracking jokes, bouncing around. Since when? Since when was this happening? Since when was Ryan Dempster the heart and soul of this team? And since when does a guy quit and the only thing you have to say about him is he's a great guy? And I just want one last final thought about this. I want to compare it to the Bruins. A few years ago when Tim Thomas retired, when he took a year, he did the same thing. I keep saying retirement, but when he takes the year off to go spend time with his family after winning you a Stanley Cup, being the top reason why you won a Stanley Cup, how come the only thing said about Tim Thomas is that he's the biggest DB in Boston and we're making fun of him and everything when they had his backup already planted? He was even supposed to start that season anyways. So I don't get this. Why is the Red Sox media just calling Ryan Dempster the greatest human to ever play? Let's go retire his number. He had the same numbers as Brad Penny. Nobody's talking about him. Let's go retire their numbers too at Fenway. It's just a joke, and I don't like it.
And it's funny that you bring up that point because honestly, I think that the media is getting way too overblown with the whole Red Sox 2013 season, and the guys have it. The reason that they won was because they had such a great chemistry, and the boys are back. And
all right, well,
all
guys, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to wrap you up. But that was a great discussion today. I think we hit a lot of stuff, but that's all we have for you guys today at Studio 73. We'll see you next time.